Most people spend decades learning how to manage their career, their money, their relationships, but almost nobody teaches us how to manage the one thing that experiences all of it, our own mind, which raises a question most of us never stop to ask. Who is actually in charge of you? Because somewhere along the way, most of us quietly hand over that responsibility. We give it to our circumstances, to other people's opinions, to the headlines, to the balance in our bank account, to things we were never truly meant to control. And without realizing it, we begin living as if the world is in charge of how we feel. A Roman emperor figured this out 2,000 years ago, sitting alone at night at a military camp on the edge of the known world. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and this is what he wrote for himself. No retreat offers more quiet than that into your own mind. Not his palace, not the hills, not the sea. His own mind. You know that feeling when your phone is face down on the table and you're trying to have a conversation, but part of you is just waiting. Waiting for a buzz, a notification, a reply from someone who matters. When it doesn't, a low hum of anxiety that you can't quite explain. Now here's the question. In that moment, who is in charge? Not you. We laugh at this because we recognize it. But it isn't just phones. It's the entire architecture of modern life. Your mood in the morning is set by the first email you open. Your confidence at work rises and falls with how your last idea was received. Your sense of worth quietly tracks your salary, your title, what the person next to you seems to have that you don't. We are, most of us, walking around with our inner lives permanently outsourced. Marcus Aurelius had a phrase for this. He called it being jerked to the strings, like a puppet. And he wasn't speaking philosophically. He was writing it as a personal warning to himself, on a night when he probably felt it too. The most powerful man in the world, still fighting the same battle. Imagine your sense of peace, your actual, genuine inner quiet, is a room. It's always been there. It's always been yours. But somewhere along the way, you got the idea that the door to that room is locked, and that the key is held by something outside you. Get the promotion. Maybe then you'll feel settled. Find the right person. Maybe then you'll feel whole. Get the body right, the house right, the bank balance right. Maybe then the door opens. So you spend years, sometimes decades, chasing the key. And the cruel joke, the thing Marcus Aurelius understood with absolute clarity, is this. The door was never locked. It was always open. You just kept walking past it. He wrote, "Things cannot touch the mind. They are external and inert. Anxieties can only come from your internal judgment." Your boss's tone in a meeting, that's a sound. It becomes dread only because your mind decides what it means. The silence after you send a vulnerable message, that's just time passing. It becomes rejection only because your judgment steps in and fills the gap. Think of your inner state as the temperature inside your home, and think of everything outside. The opinions, the outcomes, the economy, what someone said about you, how the day went, as the weather. Most of us have left every window in the house wide open. A cold front moves in and we're freezing. The sun comes out, and suddenly everything feels possible. We spend our lives obsessing over the forecast, desperate for good weather, dreading the clouds. What Marcus was pointing at, and what takes a lifetime to really understand, is that the inside of the house doesn't have to match the outside. You can acknowledge the storm. You can respect the cold. You can deal with what the weather requires of you. But inside, the temperature is yours to set. And the way you set it isn't by controlling the weather. It's by learning that the window was always yours to close. Marcus Aurelius wasn't writing from a spa. He was writing from a war. He buried children. He watched plague move through the empire he was responsible for. He dealt with betrayal, with ingratitude, with problems that had no good answer. He wasn't pretending the hard things weren't hard. What he was doing, every single night in those private notes, was something more like what a good sailor does. When a sailor faces rough water, they don't curse the sea. They don't demand that the ocean apologize. They adjust. They read the wind. They shift the sail. They find the angle that lets them move forward. That is the whole philosophy. In one image, you are not trying to control the sea. You are learning to sail. We live in the most externally stimulating moment in human history. More options, more noise, more ways to measure yourself against other people than any generation before us has ever had to contend with. And underneath all of it, the productivity systems, the wellness routines, the constant reinvention, most of us are still asking the same question we were asking at 25. Why doesn't this feel like enough yet? Marcus Aurelius sat in a tent 2,000 years ago and wrote the answer down. Not in a manifesto, not a system. Just a quiet note to himself on a night when he probably needed to hear it. Constantly give yourself this retreat and renew yourself. Not once. Not when things collapse. Constantly. The most powerful man in the Roman Empire had to remind himself daily to come home to his own mind. Because that's where freedom actually lives. Not in better circumstances. Not in the right conditions. Not when things finally settle down. In the room that was always open. In the house where you set the temperature. In the water on the other side of the cape. It was always there. It's still there now.